What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Salty Runback, here to be your weekly intake of North American Developmental League of Legends. We're back! Sorry, we took a bit of a hiatus. Things have been a bit crazy here to start off 2024.
We're busy people.
Yeah, it's been a lot. We've had Tier 3 tonight, our show that covers the NACL Qualifiers. We've had CLOL Central, where we do a CLOL match per week. And we somehow ran out of time last week to record an episode. But we have one for you here today. And it'll come in right before another super week for the NACL. We now have 2 weeks of qualifiers and challengers to go over, and we're super excited to do that. My name is Grapes, joined alongside, of course, my co-host Hawk. Hawk, how are you doing today?
You know, Grapes, I'm doing all right. We've already recorded, I don't know about you, I've recorded, over an hour's worth of content today. It's been a long recording day. Like you said, we've been very busy trying to figure out, our workflow and what happens best, but we're settling in a little bit. We're figuring out the formula for Tier 3 tonight / CLOL Central, and we're cooking. We're cooking.
Yeah. No, I feel like the show's gone well. I think it's gone about as well as I hoped, and it's kind of matching our expectations so far. Yeah. If you have any feedback on how we can improve that show, let us know. I believe we're going to be releasing this podcast basically right after that show airs live on Twitch, but you can catch it every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That just covers all the NACL qualifiers. We run highlight packages. We do content. As Hawk said, we're recording a lot of content. So make sure to tune into that. And this is kind of the reaction to the results of the qualifiers that happened in this past weekend, which gets a little bit confusing. But if I think we'll try to catch you up all the way to make sure it all makes sense.
Just watch Tier 3 tonight so you can know exactly what happened with the qualifiers. We're intentionally releasing the podcast every single week after Tier 3 tonight, so that way you can watch the podcast and then already know what happened in all the games. Oh my god, it's so smart.
And another shout out, just because I don't know how many people are super aware of this, but all the VODs for the qualifiers will also be available on the LOL Esports VODs YouTube channel. So the same place where you look at for LCS VODs, for NACL VODs, you'll also see the qualifiers there without commentary. But if you really want to get into the action, you can look there. But for just general coverage, you can go over to Tier 3 tonight, where you can hear us talk about everything. But before we get into things, last thing. I guess we can announce our CLOL Central matchup. We should probably do that on socials again, but make sure to tune in to Salty Runback on Twitch this Friday, which is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, or a little bit before that to get started with the pre-show. We're doing a rematch of the Peach Belt Finals from last year with Florida Southern College against Converse. That should be a lot of fun, a lot of rivalry, some really solid players, and hopefully a good time.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Two teams that are not necessarily at the upper echelon of CLOL, but have actually been really competitive with each other in the Peach Belt, for anyone that follows that. Both of them making the CLOL Championship last year. There's some players on both sides that, if you're a fan of the space, probably have heard of before. So, yeah, make sure to tune in for some CLOL collegiate action, Peach Belt action. I mean, every time, I love covering CLOL because these teams, there's bad blood between some of them. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's true rivalries here.
I think everyone thought it was going to be Converse winning that last year, and I think Florida Southern actually ended up upsetting them, which was a bit surprising for many. But now Converse has a new roster. Florida Southern, I think, running it back a little bit. But yeah, we'll have some fun people onto that, some guests. It should be a ton of fun and a very good time. And you can catch that once a week over on our Salty Runback Twitch channel. But, Hawk, let's start getting into our headlines for today. Make sure to stay tuned for our part 2 afterwards. We'll be talking to Qwacker over on Wildcard Gaming. But before we do that, let's talk about the NACL, starting off with two teams that I think had some pretty high expectations, Hawk, but are a little bit short in terms of where they have fallen, at least right now. When you look at the standings, in 8th and 9th right now are Team Liquid Challengers and Disguised. The best regular season team and the best playoff team from the summer split have only won one series each. What do we think about their performance so far, and which team are we more worried about 3 games into the season?
And this is a tough question, Graves, because I'm not gonna lie, it's been pretty concerning for both of these teams. I'm just gonna be straight up. It's been a rough look so far. So yeah, when you ask the question of who we're more concerned about, it really is I don't think either of these teams. I am sitting here after 3 weeks of play. Disguise has played 3 matches, and Team Liquid has played 4.
Yeah.
I don't really look at either of them and actually feel that convinced. I'm not saying, oh, like one of the others going to scale, because I have different issues with the way that each of these teams has both played the game. And it's a tough situation. I think, honestly, okay, I'm going to maybe cop out a little bit. I think to say most concerned, it's probably Team Liquid, just because they have lost an extra match so far. And
Yeah.
Team Liquid also has lost matches to teams that it feels like is going to be their direct competition so far. Losing 2-0 to AoE is a big deal. Losing 2-0 to Wildcard's a big deal. Like those kind of losses are the ones that could really bite them in the ass when it comes to either making promotion relegation against some of these mid-table teams, or if they're making the playoffs, like the fact if they are not able to hack it against some of these teams, then I would expect an early exit for them. Whereas Disguised, like their 2 losses are bad, and their win over Wildcard was also like, series was a banger. Just go watch it. It was a banger, but it felt like we saw flashes of that Disguise that we were kind of expecting to be able to just like be better at the game than some of these other teams, and that maybe is reassuring, even though they do still look lost as a team.
I mean, I think the players individually on Disguised have had more impressive moments so far.
Yeah.
I think, compared to Team Liquid. When I think of like how well some players on Team Liquid have performed, like Roamer kind of sticks out as somebody who's been pretty good in some games. But other than that, nothing is really standing out to me, at least at the moment. They did look good against Disguised, which actually is a bit ironic because those are the 2 teams that we're talking about. They did play on Friday, and it was a 2-0 for TL. But I think I have to, like, in terms of the performance and the schedule so far, I guess you want to say DSG, because their only win was a very sloppy one against Wildcard that required like a Tenacity Aurelia in Game 3 to get them out of it. But for some reason, I still have a lot of confidence in those Disguised players specifically. Whereas for Team Liquid, I think maybe some of the hopium that I had from our preseason talks that we were going through back and forth, maybe it's fading away just a little bit, because the quote unquote the solid vets on that team that we were expecting to just really hold their ground, whether it's Jenkins and Spawn, they've been fine, but they haven't, like, I don't know, they haven't really been taking that next step, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that is where I'm worried for Team Liquid. And also going into week 4, DSG and TL both have pretty tough matches ahead of them, so that adds extra exclamation points. It's Maryville, who have looked pretty good, haven't lost a series yet technically.
Haven't lost a game, I do believe, as well. I think they're 4-0.
No, they went 2-1 in both of them.
Okay.
It was Supernova and it was AoE.
Actively lied to everyone. My bad. I thought they were 4-0. Are they?
It's Maryville versus Disguise, and then Team Liquid versus Supernova, who I think also have looked pretty good. So
yeah,
it's a little bit worried for both of them.
It's a tough situation. And I think the coaching staff for both these teams is going to be under maybe a bit of a microscope. I mean, both of these teams lost their coaches to the LCS after their previous years. Spawn getting promoted to Team Liquid, and then Golden Glue getting picked up by 100 Thieves. Because, when you look at both Disguised and Team Liquid, Disguised I feel like is kind of like just inting a little bit, and Team Liquid looks like a team that has not found their moxie, right? And both of these are issues, but they're different problems. And both of them don't feel like the kind of thing that you fix with one good scrim, right? Like there's something that these teams need to figure out. And that's why, I was lower on Team Liquid coming into the season, but this feels like a bad I told you so, because honestly, the team has looked worse than I expected. And than anyone has expected. So I hope these teams bounce back. Like, I think they're still talented players, and like you said, Team Liquid, their one win was like a pretty nice win at the very least. But the 3 losses stick out like a sore thumb. Whereas I don't know. I think Disguise beating a streaking wildcard team in a banger of a series might just be the kind of wake up call that they need to be like, all right, guys, time to get our shit together. And they're still only 1-2, so there's a long season left for them to play.
And it's crazy. We're going to talk about this a little bit later when we get into format, but just with how much parity there is in the league right now and how short the season is, like specifically for like Team Liquid, because they've already played 4 out of their 9 games. Like, that's a big chunk.
Yeah.
And you look at the teams that they still have left to play, and you're not really thinking, oh, these are free wins, like they should be able to clean them up. I'm just going to go through their original schedule, the rest of their schedule right now. It is Supernova,
Tough.
Fear,
Tough.
Mirage,
Tough.
Maryville, and
Tough.
Lit, who are all like they're all like a little scary, and then none of them are like free wins that you can just check off. Like in theory, where it's like going back to the start of the season, you're thinking, oh yeah, it's Maryville, it's Lit, it's Mirage. They're gonna be fine. They're gonna pick up those 3 wins. They'll probably get another one. They'll be 5-4. They'll be in the playoffs. Who knows at this point?
Who knows? And it's scary when like they're not in must-win mode. Like they don't have to beat Supernova, but they will be very soon for Team Liquid. Disguise, it feels like they've got that little bit of a buffer because they play one less series. But
Can you imagine if as soon as Spawn leaves, Team Liquid go to relegation? That'd be wild. Yeah.
Upsetting.
As much as we would like to talk about some of the teams towards the top, our next topic, unfortunately, is also about a team that is towards the bottom of the standings right now. Speaking of rosters who have played 4 series, Mirage Alliance is one of them as well, and they are currently sitting at 0-4. Clearly, there's a lot of drama about the roster decisions that were made and everything like that. I don't want to get into that too much right now, Hawk. We can maybe dive into that a little bit later, but we already have kind of addressed it. I'm interested in the comparison between Mirage Alliance and Lit Esports, who ran back their entire roster from the summer. Do you think that if Mirage Alliance's original roster stuck together, that's Alorum, Chad, Sudsy, Neo, and Dardoch, they would be better off than where they are now?
I don't know. Like, maybe. Because that Mirage Alliance roster was very stacked with, like, solid talent. You know what I mean? Like, from top to bottom, they had players that are, like, all very, very good. And this new roster has, like, some interesting pieces that I think the other one did not necessarily have. But you know what? No, I'm going to say yes, because I think Neo is probably better than Prismal, and I think, honestly, like, I can't imagine Sudsy's worse than RJS, and I don't know if this is a hot take, but Chad is at worst just as good as Will. So I would say that the other roster would have been better, because I also feel like that, keeping a roster together, you're more likely to continue to improve. So the fact that it got changed so much, maybe you reset things a bit, even if a lot of the players' name value is probably the same.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of that. Before we continue, I think we want to make it clear we're not necessarily criticizing for Mirage for making changes, because I believe Neo is on vacation right now, or is away.
Yeah. If
and
certain
is not
players
in a position to actually play, so I don't think this actually is a possibility.
Right. If certain players weren't able to play, and Chad Foley got picked up by another team, right? Like it happens. So like it's not. Yeah, I think like there's been discourse about whether or not Mirage Alliance oh, are they allowed to do this? They are not fielding enough of their like original roster or whatever from promotion. But like I think it's fine. Like I don't think is the debate.
I just thought it was an interesting conversation to like talk about.
Yeah.
So I do think yes, not only because I think Neo is very good and he would have, I think, slid right back into being a very solid NACL player. The vibes on that team also were just way better. We're all very good. They were all winning. Everyone seemed to be very friendly with each other, at least for the most part. Maybe it was just because they were winning that like the vibes were good, and now that they're losing, maybe the vibes are not as good, at least from what we're maybe hearing, or like obviously what led to the original roster changes at the start. But it does suck to see players like Alorum finally get that chance and it just not working out, because this team does not look like they are going to be in a good spot, or just they seem very lost, kind of in the same way as Team Liquid, although maybe even a little bit worse.
Yeah, this team, it's a tough spot to be in. I do wonder if how much having RJS on the team as opposed to Sudsy, how much of a difference that makes. Like I think if you were to criticize a roster move, unless Sudsy willingly left the team, which I find unlikely just because he is now playing on Team Fish Taco, right? Mm-hmm. That is the one to me that is the most questionable. Obviously, like aside from RJS's skill as a player, it seemed like Sudsy to me added a lot to that team as far as like what he could offer in terms of consistency as both on the Rift and as a teammate. Just seemed like a very level-headed, even-keeled person, and a level-headed, even-keeled player. RJS, a little bit more of a stronger personality. Like, I do wonder if you were to criticize a roster move, I think letting go of Sudsy, who, Grapes, I don't know if you would agree with this. I thought he was one of the largest parts of that team's success. Like,
I
Sudsy
think so too, actually.
dominated mid lane in the promotion tournament and in the quals. I think if you were to criticize a move and maybe point to like if you wanted a reason why Mirage Alliance is now struggling, that could maybe be it. The rest of it, I don't know. But yeah, that's where my maybe if something was to be criticized.
You see the Wits End Azir for Mirage. RJS whipped that out last week, which was interesting.
That is a choice.
So,
that is a choice.
Yeah, 2-0 loss to Supernova, 2-1 loss to Lit. Shout out to Lit for getting their first win. That was really fun
that was
to
a
watch.
banger. That was a banger.
But yeah, still half the season left to play for them basically, and they have a schedule that is not the worst.
They're in win now mode.
They
are
in
win now mode.
mode.
Because they also lost to the team that we're expecting to be their biggest competition for relegation, which is Lit. So that
and Wildcard, theoretically,
but they're 2-1 right now. But yes, and Wildcard if you're to go off preseason. So like, yeah, Mirage they're in desperate need of they need to win games starting now.
Yeah, they have 2 opportunities to do so this week. They play Maryville and AOE,
which are winnable. Which are both winnable.
Yeah. Let's go on to our next topic, which is kind of a meta conversation, I think, a little bit. Let's reflect right now, Hawk, on what the format has been like over these first 3 weeks. What do we like about the NACL schedule, the way things have been running, and what are some things that we're not as happy about?
Oh, Grapes. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not super satisfied with the NACL format. I'm just gonna be blunt. And I know that situations are what they are, budgets are what they are, and from what I've heard about the NACL and budgeting is they literally did not have $1 to spare to put on this tournament. And you can criticize Riot for that all you want, but just know that it's not the people that are directly involved with the league and the people that are actually running the league are not the ones making those decisions. So it is what it is, you know what I mean? And it's something that is frustrating, but we can't really do much about, right? It's not Whipple's fault. It's not anyone else's fault, except for the powers that be, right? And so that's why the way things are. But I'm gonna be so real. Single round robin it blows. Single round robin is really tough. I think Fearless Draft is cool. Honestly, it's been kind of whatever so far. It's different. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's bad. I'm pretty neutral on Fearless Draft. I think the best of 3 is cool. Again, pretty neutral on it. I think the big thing for me is not losing double round robin is a big deal.
Yeah. My take on Fearless, actually, as I've watched more and more weeks of it, is that I think we're not noticing it as much because the meta is maybe a little bit staler than it actually would be. And if we were in a league that runs normal best of 3s without Fearless, we would probably notice that a little bit more because there are so many high prio picks that continue to cycle through every time.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that is why we're not sensing it as much. Once we get to best of 5s, that is when shit is going to get crazy.
Yeah, that's when it's going to get wild.
So I'm excited for best of 5s with Fearless, but right now it's fine. I do enjoy watching especially when we get to game 3s, new things really get kind of pulled out. There were some crazy draft. I think the Lit versus Mirage game 3 draft was really weird and in a good way. So that's what I like about that, at least for Fearless.
Yeah, I would agree. I think suggestion for feedback as well for Riot or whoever's listening or just the discourse is I think a champion should only be able to be picked once by both teams instead of just each team. I think that would be a good change. I've heard some people saying to go true Fearless, where anytime a champion is picked or banned, it's done for the whole series. I disagree with bans. I think then you get a little too crazy. Even in a best of 3, you're then cycling through 60 champions in a best of 3. That's half the roster, guys. Getting into best of 5s, I mean, there's players that would need to be able to play 10 champions for their role. That's fucking ridiculous, But I think picks. I think it would be a good change if both teams could only play a champion once. I think it adds more cost versus benefit. But I will say, Grapes, we've had some discourse about how Fearless Draft does change drafts in qualifiers in the sense of like, sometimes even in game twos, the champions that are being picked don't change, but maybe the order in which those champions would be picked changes because of Fearless Draft, which does still have an effect. So like I said, I'm pretty lukewarm on it so far, but it is like it's an interesting idea, and I'm glad that we're exploring it.
Yeah, I'm not like this is bad.
No,
We shouldn't
no,
be doing
absolutely
it.
not. Like I'm overall positive.
Yeah. In terms of the game schedule, it's very clear that the budget for the broadcast is not where it used to be, and the fact that there's only 2 series happening per day is not is just such a
Yeah.
different look, especially for a developmental league where I think getting more stage games is beneficial. Having this format where like only there were teams in week 1 and 2 who didn't play the entire week, and you have
Yep.
to wait from week 1 to week 3. I don't love that.
I want to the last thing I want to say about this, just to add to that, is I do think like single round robin sucks, but I do think it's a big problem that teams are playing different numbers of games per week. Some weeks teams are playing 0 games, some weeks they're playing 1, some weeks they're playing 2, and it like seems pretty random, and I get it. You got to just schedule things where you got to schedule them, but yeah, if at the very least, like, the number of show days is down, the number of games is down, like at least try to keep it maybe a little bit more consistent would be nice, because yeah, we're talking about these teams, and like it feels like right now a team like Lit Esports is on a completely different growth trajectory in our conversation to a team like Mirage Alliance or Team Liquid, who have both played 4 games to Lit's 2. Like it's huge conversational difference. So
Especially when there's only 9 games in a year. Like
yeah, like I mean that's a quarter of the season essentially that like is separate between these 2 teams. Like it's a big deal.
Yeah, especially as well when like the bottom 2 teams are the ones that like will miss relegation or will miss the playoffs, and that's when things get really hairy. And right now we have no idea. Even though some teams are halfway done, it feels like a team like Mirage and Team Liquid are more screwed, when in reality maybe they're not, because like other teams just haven't played the same amount of games.
Yeah.
So format, I think like has room for improvement, but I think we all kind of knew that, and we're just going to try to adjust as we go. That's enough about the NACL though, Hawk. Let's talk about the qualifiers a little bit as we conclude our headlines. When we initially started off the season, we talked about how we thought there were a big 4. There was Winthrop, Team Fish Taco, Aporia, and Ole Miss that we thought were basically locks to make the promotion tournament. Things have definitely changed, though. How many teams are in this circle of trust now that we are 3 weeks into the qualifier? 5.
That many. I can count to 5. Okay?
Okay.
Winthrop,
Let's hear him.
Team Fish Taco, Aporia, BlackRock, Morningstar White. Those are my 5 favorites. I think
Wow.
Ole Miss they got to get their shit together. I'm gonna be so honest. This team looks so much worse than they did in the fall season to me. I don't know what it is. I feel like they're just playing bad League of Legends. And I want to add, I have full faith that they can turn it around. But like going off of the tape that I've seen now 3 weeks into the tournament, I'm gonna be honest, guys. Ole Miss does not look that good. They're relying way too hard on Shogo 1v9 in the game and not playing fundamentally sound League of Legends, and it's like a little concerning to me. So they can figure it out and they can rejoin the conversation. A clean win over Pulse this weekend will probably change my tune. Like I'm a rubber band. I can be shot across. Like I'm fine with that.
Are we?
But
Just real quick, are we counting Ole Miss's loss to Morningstar more than we're counting Taco's loss to BlackRock? Because
yes,
those are if I had to argue, Taco had a worse series versus BlackRock and played a close series against CCG.
I debated against actually putting Taco even on my list and maybe keeping it at 4 and kicking them off as well. But it's gonna sound weird. I put way more stock into heartbreaking losses than I do into just getting boomed. Like Taco got boomed in 2 straight games. Happens, and maybe that's naive of me, but I feel like I see teams get boomed all the time and then come back stronger. Like sometimes you just like play like shit and like everything goes wrong. But I think like when you see heartbreaking losses, oftentimes it's a pattern and it's a fundamental problem that is causing this. Now, if Taco gets boomed again next week by CCG, or if they beat CCG and then get boomed in quarters, again, I might change my opinion to be more against them. But I think they'll be fine. I think Taco is still better than like the pack. Yeah, BlackRock destroyed them, but also I do think part of that is BlackRock just looks like the best team right now by quite a bit to me. Like
Yeah.
their tape is unreal. They are undefeated. They're 7-0 at this tournament, and like none of their games have been close. So
Not just 7-0, they're 9-0 in terms of game score as well, where they have, or 8-0 in terms of game score, where they haven't dropped a single game.
Oh yeah,
as
8-0.
well,
I was
because they had the
yeah.
one game against Clown, and then 2 against
I can't count.
their other opponent.
I was
in
trying to say
Taco.
their game score. Yeah, they're 8-0, and none of their games have been close. So like, I think BlackRock is just better. I think Taco's still better than the pack. I think the interesting conversation is Morningstar White though, guys. If you're not watching this team, they are
You should.
individually just better than like almost every single team in this tournament, and their macro is actually good enough to keep up with the big boys as well. We saw that against Ole Miss, and they actually ended up winning. It was a little sloppy here and there, but this team's got hands, man. Like, I don't know, especially if they stay together and like improve, and Coach Mist like keeps them improving. This team is a fucking threat. Like, they're really good.
I think some of the best mechanical play that we've seen, like, not even just in like NACLQ, like maybe in general, like even going up to like the NACL, even beyond, the way that like Houston is able to play these fights, like on Fiora, on these big bruisers, had a great Gwen game as well in that first matchup against Ole Miss. Soul's been playing really well. Even Pika Pika on engaged supports has looked incredibly solid. This is a very, very good team.
It's a good team.
And not a lot of people saw it coming, but here they are, and I definitely would put them in that circle. I think I actually, to answer the question, because I don't think I actually ended up doing
No, you never. I talked a long time. That's on me.
I'd stick the 4 in there. I stick BlackRock in there for sure, and I think Ole Miss actually also sneaks in.
Okay.
My question is, do we even start considering some other teams that maybe also deserve that opportunity to be included, whether it's Lotus or ISU or even Pulse? Because right now we're in a world where like every one of these teams except for BlackRock has had their moments of looking a little bit shaky. And I don't know if we want to just have BlackRock as like that circle of 1 and then maybe like 7 or 8 other teams that like could make promotion. That's kind of where I am at right now, even, because I could see a world where an upset happens and we see ISU in the semifinals, or we see Pulse
it's possible.
beating Ole Miss and then beating, I guess, ISU again and then making the semifinals. I think
it's completely possible.
It's definitely possible. Although I do see your argument for the 5. The thing about Ole Miss as well is that I think they know that they're playing super sloppy and that they're making mistakes, and I think with Collamer coaching them, they will be able to fix them, because it's very clear what they're fucking up on, and they, knowing that program and how they operate, they feel like they should be able to fix those issues. However, they did kind of lose 3 games in a row to Morningstar White. You remember that game too? It should have been lost for them,
It should have been lost.
which is not great. So I definitely have my eye out for them at this point.
My concern for Ole Miss, though, relies in that this is a very emotional team. Very emotional team. And so that is actually why I worried for them, because their gameplay issues, to me, are pretty obvious. I'm going to be so real. And I trust that Collamer knows what they are and is going to attempt to fix them. But emotional teams can be very unpredictable for both good and bad reasons. And right now, I'm very concerned for this team for that reason. If they can bring it back, then I think that their emotional teams, a lot of times that's their greatest strength. But when you're like, this is a make or break moment for their season against Pulse coming up. And like, that's scary. I'm going to put Ole Miss, like I said, for now in the Pulse ISU Lotus tier. I don't think Lotus makes it. Probably. I don't think Pulse makes it. Probably. Like I said, I think Ole Miss has a chance. They got to win this weekend, though. They got to show me something, like they got to win and they got to make it good. ISU, every single league has one. A CLG, a KT Rollster. I refuse to believe in this team. Yeah, the way that ISU is playing right now, dude,
They're
unironically,
playing really good.
Unironically, ISU is fucking cracked. They look so good. I love this team, but I refuse to believe in them because it's ISU. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to put that on them until they actually make semifinals at this tournament. If they do it, I'm willing to believe in them.
For teams that I like have faith in, like actually if they the teams that I think are playing at a level that is worthy of potentially making it to the promotion tournament, I would include ISU right now, and I would include Pulse right now, who even though they had a bit of a shaky loss to Morningstar. It was a 2-1 loss to Morningstar. It could have been a 2-1 in their favor because of the way that game one around Baron actually ended. I think this team is very sound fundamentally. They're pretty solid mechanically, and I think that matchup against Ole Miss is going to be very close.
I would agree. And that's why big litmus test for. I mean, one of these teams' seasons is essentially going to end. Obviously, there's tournament 2, but I don't see either of those teams winning tournament 2, so they probably won't have enough qualification points to reach top 4 by the end of the split. Obviously, they'll probably play, but yeah, this is a big series between these two teams.
All right. We'll move on to our last headline, which is related, but talking a little bit more about who we think are the strongest of those strong. We have our play-in matches on Saturday to get into the quarterfinals, and then the quarterfinals themselves on Sunday. With the way that Rally Cry sets up their bracket, every potential quarterfinal matchup is predetermined. We'll read them out to you right now. It'll be BlackRock playing the winner of Lotus versus Wang, Morningstar White playing the winner of Aporia versus Gentle Hearts, Winthrop playing the winner of Taco versus CCG, and ISU playing the winner of Ole Miss and Pulse. Out of those groups, Hawk, of 3, which has the possibility of being the strongest and most exciting quarterfinal matchup?
Okay, 2 separate answers. Strongest or most exciting? I'm going to start with strongest. We can talk about that, and maybe we can go to most exciting. Really obvious answers are door number 2 and door number 3. If you're counting all 3 teams, it's probably door number 3. Winthrop, Taco, and CCG are probably like the 3 strongest teams that we have. And Winthrop and Taco in particular, if you're going off of favorites, like that's going to be a banger matchup. Talking to Denethor and Sudsy earlier, a little bit of a rivalry between these two teams. They want to beat each other. And then also Morningstar White against Aporia is like theoretically an insane quarterfinal. Like 2 teams again that are vying for promotion. Really big deal if you're able to pull out a win in that matchup. Gentle Hearts, I don't think this team is unfortunately one of the stronger ones that we have here. So yeah, that's going to be my answer for at least strongest. Is definitely either Morningstar Aporia or Winthrop Taco CCG.
Yeah. Another question that we could ask is like which one of these is the most likely to have the potential winner? That's when I think things also get interesting because you could even throw BlackRock in there because they've looked so dominant.
They've looked
even
damn
though
good.
You don't necessarily think the rest of those 2 teams have a chance. But I think I agree with you. I think it's group 3. I think it's the Winthrop Taco group. Remember, those were the 1 and 2 seeds in our qualifier committee going in. And things obviously didn't necessarily work out the way that either of them were expecting, having the opportunity to face against each other right here, right now. CCG looked very good in their 2 wins against Clown Gaming when they were actually able to have their full roster together. I think Flocon had a very solid series and probably is going to get snubbed for mid laner of the week because we had some really strong performances from Judozer and Reppy.
Performances.
So I want to give Flocon specifically a shout out there on CCG, and if Taco are going to lose, it will likely be through that mid jungle in him and Vaken. In terms of, I have no idea who the fuck is going to come out into the top 4. It is ISU, Mist, and Pulse.
Yeah, exactly.
All
bets are off.
I would give each of them a 33% chance to make it into the semifinals at this point.
No, you have to give ISU a sub 33% chance because you cannot believe in that team. You have to bet against them at every possible stage, no matter how good they look. No, that quarterfinal is gonna fuck no matter what happens. It's gonna go 3 games. It's gonna have like some of the most disgusting League of Legends you've ever seen in your life, and we're gonna love every second of it. Like that. That's going to be that quarterfinal. I'm so with you on that. It's going to be so fucking entertaining.
Yeah. I think we have some really good quarterfinals on the docket. Lotus.
Dude, when's the last time we had this many good quarters, honestly?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Lotus versus Wang and the winner of that playing BlackRock is our least exciting potential quarterfinal. And it's still pretty good. Like it's Robbie Bob against Frost Forest. It's like Robbie Bob Kitsu against like Frost Forest and Porsche. Porsche playing against some of his collegiate buddies up there. I think that one's also going to be a lot of fun.
I think they'll all be a lot of fun. Again, like I'm gonna be so real. When's the last time we had this many stacked quarters? I'm I'm gonna be honest, Grapes. I don't think we had this in 2023. I think it was a little bit more top heavy,
Yeah.
based on performances. So seeing so many awesome teams like really step up to the plate this split has been super cool. Some of our stronger teams may be stumbling, but I would say being forced to stumble by the elevated play of some of these teams reminds me of 2022 when we had some really, really, really good matchups. So I can't wait. I think it's gonna be a fun Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, you can catch those VODs as soon as they end up getting uploaded on the LoL Esports VOD channel, or next Thursday over on Tier 3 tonight. You'll get the full rundown from us. You'll get to know exactly what happened and what our top four for the first qualifier is going to look like. So that's the end of our headlines here for this episode. We're going to jump to our part 2, where we sat down with Wildcard Gaming's top laner, Qwacker. We're here with the top laner of Wildcard Gaming, Qwacker, who has been around the block a couple of times in, I think, his like 3rd or 4th year of professional play, and doing pretty good stuff on a wildcard team that didn't have a ton of expectations, but now is performing very well. Qwacker, first of all, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I mean, season's going great so far, at least compared to like the original power rankings. So feeling pretty good overall. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Do you guys look at those power rankings and talk about them like as players, and does that weigh on you guys at all, or make you feel like you want to prove something?
I mean, we definitely looked at them as a team, and then it's just like, haha, we're ranked 10th. 3 of our players are 10th or whatever, and then it's just like, okay, whatever, let's prove these guys wrong. So doesn't really hurt too much. It's actually kind of a good thing. It's like a motivator. So I'd say, yeah, that's pretty much our reaction to it.
Hell yeah. I've got to say, I'm someone that's been proven wrong. I didn't have you guys 10th, but I had you lower than you're currently performing to, so I'm willing to take the L right here. Graves was maybe a bit more of a believer, so you know, he might be cooler than me. But Qwacker, before we talk all about like all the NACL and all that kind of stuff, you know, of course this interview mostly about you and where you came from, but did you know that you were Grapes and I's first ever Tier 3 level cast, like challenger level cast? We casted
Really?
your game. Yeah. You want
Real
I
quick,
did not.
do you want to guess which game it was and what year and like and everything about it?
Can I ask like a question or
Yeah, sure.
like
I don't know.
it wasn't collegiate, right? So it wasn't.
No.
collegiate?
It was like
Okay.
it was in like this Tier 3, whether it's Proving Grounds or NACL Qualifiers.
I mean, I would guess it would just be like, I don't even remember what tournament it was, but it would be like 2021 spring. Like I was on Wildcard still actually, and then I think it was like Risen, or it might have been. There's a few other ones too, but
Yo,
Dang.
it might
not
have been
bad,
Risen.
not
Dang.
bad.
I'm guessing it was Risen, and I was like, might have been against like Peak Performance or something. It was my first match of this level.
No
Is that
way!
it?
Oh my
You
god!
actually just
remember
guessed the match. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I actually have the scoreboard here. I'm gonna send it in our
Okay,
little chat.
yeah.
We can put it up
Ooh,
on the screen.
Okay.
You're on tank duty for game 1. The thing I remember the most was that Team Luke, who was your 80 carry at the time, played Samir in game 1, and at that point, that champion was still very new. I don't think
Yeah.
I really knew anything about it, and then he got a pentakill, which was
Yeah.
insane. But I mean, just man, you know, start of our careers to now, like look how much we've gone through, man.
I did not know you guys casted this game though. I did not realize that.
I'm gonna be
That's news to me.
I'm gonna be so honest. Grapes wrote this question. I did not know we casted this game either. Like I remember casting for Peak Performance. I have no recollection of this game
Yeah,
whatsoever.
Yeah.
There's some names on here.
There are some
You got
names.
Nem9, you got Bijani,
Yeah.
who was in the NACL last year, and then on your team you got Trickster and Daption. I mean, wow, what a throwback.
Yeah, this game was like low key stacked.
You know that Peak Performance team went like 0-5 or something, but that's all right.
Yep.
But Qwacker, you started in competitive a little bit before that. You were in collegiate for a couple of years. Is that where you like
Yep.
first became like involved in playing competitive league, or was there something before that as well?
I mean, in terms of like at the high level, I would say yeah. I mean, I had like a high school team, and we went to like a couple tournaments, and we won them because I was like grandmaster back then, and I was like good for high school. But I mean, the average like level of play was probably like platinum just in those tournaments, so I don't really count it. But in terms of like high level competitive, where everyone was like consistently like master plus or maybe like diamond plus at a minimum, then yeah, my first introduction was definitely in collegiates, just playing for my school in Illinois.
Hell yeah. And I mean, I know a lot of people have a lot of good memories from collegiate and everything. Like
Uh,
UIUC. I mean, that was back when UIUC was really really good too. Like, what was it like? Just playing in collegiate league back then. Any favorite memories, anything like that?
I mean, definitely a lot of good memories. Low key, like, well, my first year, my like freshman year, I was just in the academy team, but
Mhm.
then just randomly, kind of at the very end of the year, like starting to approach like CLOL, like top 32 or whatever, top 16. They like subbed me into the main team. I was like challenger back then, but I don't know if I was quite ready for that. Just being honest, like I remember just going on and I didn't do bad. I did like well in my first match, but then we lost. I think it was against Maryville, and then the next match I like kind of choked. But I was like, personally, it was kind of weird. Like they just subbed me in to the main team, but like I was down for it, and then I couldn't say no, and then like after that, the other top laner graduated, so I was just on the main roster for the next few years, and yeah, it was just, I mean, for us, it wasn't really like it wasn't a scholarship school, so all of us were legit just like people who like chose to go to that school and just happened to play a league at a like relatively high level,
Yeah.
and so it ended up just being like more of a club and not really like feeling that try hard. I mean, we were definitely trying to win, but definitely some good vibes from like that aspect, just because we're there to like have fun and make friends. So yeah,
Yeah. That's
a lot of good
awesome.
memories.
That's really cool.
Yeah, a lot of those teammates I still just like talk to on a regular basis, even though we don't play together anymore. Like,
Yeah, your
just
old wildcard teammate Zeno, right? He was mid laner.
yeah. And then he was the story of how that came to be was like, I remember I was on Wildcard. I think originally we had like some other mid laner, but then I don't know what happened. They either backed out or maybe they got picked up by another team. And I was like, and then like my manager was like, "Oh, we need a mid laner or something." So I was like, "Oh, I'll just ask." I mean, my mid laner on like the collegiate team is like top 20 challenger, plenty enough for like amateur level, at least in my mind, because I was just breaking into it like I was a rookie. So I just hit him up. I was like, "Hey, you want to play amateur with me? I think this could be fun." He was about to graduate, so I think he had a lot of time on his hands because he was basically already done with his degree. Just like how it kind of works, at least at our school. So he was like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's just," or I don't know if I can say that, but
No,
like, yeah,
you
freak it.
can't. We're not on. This is Salty Runback. This is not Riot.
But yeah, I was just like, he was just like, "Yeah, fuck it, I'll play one split and we'll see where it goes." And I mean, we went pretty far, definitely further than people expected us to go, which I think is like kind of like the story of my whole career, honestly. But but yeah, that was definitely a very fun split and definitely one of my favorite teams I've been on. So that wildcard team, and then yeah,
That's
kind of
awesome.
stemming from my collegiate team in a way.
I mean, speaking of further than expected to go, story of your career, like we were talking about how back in 2021 spring, that was the first tier 3 game that Grapes and I casted. A lot of your career was actually before we were really that invested in the space. Took a long break after 2021. What was it like being gone, and what made you decide to eventually come back?
Um, yeah, so the reason why I originally took a break, I just kind of realized, like doing like full, like trying to make it pro in league and then also doing like full-time school, especially since I was like approaching like the tougher years of my degree. Like I was
Mhm.
approaching like my junior year, which is supposed to be the hardest for what I was majoring in.
Yeah.
It was just not really like feasible. Like that summer splits, 2021 summer, I was like spending a ton of time, and then unfortunately our team didn't go very well, like kind of fell short. And after that, I was like, shoot, if I'm gonna spend this much time and I still can't, I mean, yeah, I still can't really like guarantee results, then maybe I just need to take a break. Um, Focus on like school for a bit, especially through like the most important years of like my degree specifically. And then originally I wasn't ever, it was like indefinite, like it was an indefinite break. I wasn't really sure if I was gonna come back, but kind of what really turned it was, so my school is UIUC, right? So I was kind of really close to Chicago. And in 2022 summer finals for LCS
Oh
were actually
wow.
being held in Chicago, and so me
Oh,
and my old collegiate teammates, I was like, "Hey, this is like an hour from us, or like an hour and a half drive, or like 2 hour drive, or
that's
whatever. Let's just
awesome.
go. Let's just go together and see like LCS finals and like kind of relive." I mean, obviously we never played LCS level, but like kind of relived some of our old like team memories and stuff and like team experiences. And so we all went and we watched. I think like Berserker was there on C9. He just like piss smurfed on everyone, and I was like, holy shit, this is kind of inspiring. This guy's like the goat. That guy is really really cracked. And I was like starting to think to myself like, what if I was like putting in the work and like becoming this cracked? Like that would feel really really good. Basically, I was just inspired by Berserker, like smurfing on everyone and LCS. And so 2022 like summer, I think towards like the end of the season, I like went back into solo queue. I like spammed and it was going pretty well. I had like rank 40 again, which is like pretty much where I've hovered most of my career. And I was like, okay, I still kind of got it. I'm gonna try for some teams. I think that split or that off season, I didn't really do that well. I mean, I usually grieve my tryouts to be honest. So I didn't get like any like solid offers for stream. What ended up happening, I think, was I subbed for Wildcard and NACL whenever they had like I think it was like the Moose Hater Keel Sligo roster, which they were
Ooh,
kind of
okay.
smurfing also. Yeah, I was like listed as a sub for them, just playing like Champs Queue a little bit, and then like playing solo queue. And I was at the time I was also still in my last semester of college, so just finishing up clean. Like it wasn't too like busy compared to like before, but because like I said, like by that stage, like your last semester, you're usually pretty much done. So yeah, I was just kind of like finishing up clean my degree, and then knowing that like I wanted to compete eventually. And yeah, I mean, I think halfway through like the spring splits, I think it was like the last OQ or whatever.
Oh, that was
I
CCG,
was
right?
yeah, I
Yeah,
was hit up
yeah,
by
yeah.
I think it was originally Horizon, but then they got acquired by CCG, so played for them. I think we did all right. It wasn't like the most outstanding performance, but for like a first experience back after like maybe it was like over a year break at that point. So
Yeah.
I think I had some good games, even though like we lost the series, like eventually got eliminated. I think I was pretty okay, like with how I played. Maybe some regrets in the last game, but it is what it is.
I was about to
Um,
say before we go any further because there's
yeah,
a lot we just covered
yeah.
there.
There's a
Mhm.
lot. Yeah.
Um, when you kind of originally took that break, was it your goal to inevitably come back? You said it was indefinite, but was it like in your back of your mind that you wanted to compete again, or was it more focusing on like IRL stuff, going to like work and after that? Was that like something that you were considering as well?
um, I guess the main priority on my mind was like making sure that my IRL stuff was all like in order. So kind of whenever I decided to start taking the break, I had been sacrificing a lot of my like school and like my like other stuff like outside of league just to compete and like do better. But I realized like heck, I'm like my degree's not going so well, like low key. And you're like yeah. And then like also like not just the degree, but like you need to get like internships and stuff in general, like for most majors. I assume it's pretty much the same. So like you need to worry about that stuff and like make sure that your job prospects are all looking good. So I wanted to like focus on that, make sure it was all in order. And then when I did decide to like come back in summer 2022, I was like, okay, I'm in a pretty good spot. Like things are going pretty well in terms of like my school and my degree, all that. So maybe I do have a little bit of time, especially since I was pretty much done with my degree at that point. Like senior year is pretty chill usually. So I was like, yeah, I have some extra time that I can throw at league and see how it goes. Yeah.
As someone in senior year, I'm chilling right now, so I know what you mean.
It's so funny because my senior year, I was the opposite of chilling. Like I was so stressed out. Grapes can
I
vouch.
mean, it's chilling except for like the stuff we're doing here, like with esports and everything. So like
Yeah.
I mean,
everything outside of that is fine. So
this
that now I get to full commit to this stuff,
this was a
like what Quacker's
stressor,
doing.
and senior year was stressful. I'm so jealous, guys. Like, but I'm also the idiot that overloads myself. But you know, Quacker, like when you came back, you said you had some extra time to throw to league. You were still playing and stuff. Like, I
Yep.
mean, I guess like to put it very bluntly, like, did you expect to play this well? Because you've actually hit now since returning a career peak for yourself, and you're looking very damn good very quickly. Was that like part of the plan, or what? Like, or were you just like, oh, I'll come back and see how I do?
I mean, I'll just say like before, whenever I was competing in like 2021, I definitely had the feeling that I was good enough for like academy level.
Mm-hmm.
Just was maybe a little bit short, and then like also there's a lot of luck involved with like scouts and stuff. But it is what it is. So it's like maybe I was missing a few aspects of my play. So when I came back, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take a shot and see where it goes. But maybe I'm not guaranteed to like go that high. But I definitely knew like there was something there probably because, I mean, at least for like that 2021 Spring Wildcard roster, we went to like Proving Grounds, and we ended up getting eliminated. Not like placing blame on anything, but like we had to like play a sub in our
There were some
last
subs
game.
involved.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that.
And it was just like an unfortunate situation. So we weren't really at our like 100%, like pretty much guaranteed like 100%. We were not playing at our like our best game. So it was a little bit unfortunate. Like, you know what? If we actually did play on our full roster, we probably could have, well, we would have beaten an academy team because that's what we were against. And then who knows what would have happened in the next round, but at the very least, we knew we were better than like the worst academy team probably because just the way the game was going, like we were pretty far ahead. So yeah,
Nice.
maybe if you didn't have a sub, we would have won. Yeah.
And to talk a little bit more about now what's been happening recently. I mean, last split on Supernova, you had a really, really strong individual performance, but obviously like the team didn't end up working out as well as you might have hoped. Ended up getting relegated. Of course, you're back now on Wildcard, still got picked up, which is great. How has that sort of affected your mentality or it just in general? Like how has that weighed on you as a player? Both last split now into this split playing in NACL.
Yeah, or any good stories from Summer as well, or anything like that.
I mean, Supernova was a fun time. I think towards the end, we kind of lost our sight in the game, and that kind of showed in the relegation tournaments where I think maybe the long break between like regular season, it was like a month after regular season was the relegation tournament. And so it's kind of hard to stay focused, even if you're scrimming, like, I mean, scrims are just scrims. So it was kind of hard to stay focused like that long without a match game. And so by the time the relegation tournament came around, we were like not that focused, but I think we were really close to re-promoting, and I don't even think I was playing. I mean, I think I was playing pretty bad, to be honest, in that relegation tournament. Like, not as good as I was maybe early in the season. So it is what it is. We got relegated.
Yeah.
I feel some responsibility for that. But I mean, the roster, we definitely, in our wins, like, it was quite fun to play with those guys, just straight up. Maybe, I mean, people always say, like, I had, like, a really strong individual performance, but I do think maybe that's a little bit of an overstatement. Like, my laning was really strong, I would agree, but something that I was lacking in last split, and then I'm working on a lot this split, was, like, maybe the mid game, which I don't think I'm, like, terribly far behind, but it's just I'm not quite as clean as maybe the top laners in the league, and so I just need to work on that. And I do think that was, like, part of the issues that we had last split, where, like, yeah, there were some games where I was just dropping, like, 15 kills and, like, 30, but it would be nice if, like, that wasn't necessary to win the game, and that's also a lot on me, not just on, like, on, like, whatever, on the team or whatever, so yeah.
Happens.
You talked about individual performance and like hearing all the noise. Did you hear all like the talk about all the solo kills you were picking up? Was that like that become like an inside joke in comms every once in a while?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did like tell myself the solo kill king of NACL on like Twitter or whatever, and then
Yeah.
and then it's like an inside joke, I guess, with me and like my old jungler music, where he'll like poke fun or be like, oh, you're playing with like the solo kill king or something or whatever, like that, like whatever we were doing.
Did they ever like drop like question mark pings on you after you got your like third solo kill of the game or anything like that? Or
I think they might have. I mean, I can't remember exactly. I think at some point it actually kind of became normal. Not to brag, like
that's so.
like, I'll be like,
It's
oh,
true.
I killed him.
Yeah.
I killed him top, and then my team was like, oh, nice, like it's the 30th time or whatever.
That's funny, man.
But yeah, I mean, maybe the first 2 times for sure they were like, oh, you're smurfing. Let's go.
I mean, speaking of dunking enemy top laners, there is another dunk master that has come up into the NACL, another Darius player, Dragoon, on Lit. And you guys are facing off this weekend. Any thoughts on the Darius top lane matchup against Dragoon here?
Well, only one of us can pick it in a match, so you're never gonna see like.
True.
I know
Darius
we can't see the
Darius,
mirror. We can't see the mirror. I know.
Yeah.
And it's fearless, so you guys only get it once.
Only get it once, yeah. But what I will say about that is like I think just historically like Dragoon has kind of had his pool set up in a way where he's better to play against the Darius than I am. So usually for me, I don't have to like plan around playing against the Darius because I'm the one picking it, you know. So just in that like mirror matchup specifically, the Darius has usually gone pretty well for him, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily an indicator that he's like the better Darius or anything. The fact that he can pick Darius against me, it just so happens that my pool is not so good in Darius, and I haven't practiced those matchups as much. So that's just what I'll say. I think if you looked at objectively Darius only, like how we both pilot it, you could probably say we're about the same skill. We're both probably the best
Oh,
too.
come on. I was waiting for you to say like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm way better.
Well, if you want to be okay, if you want something better, like I'd say we take turns being the best Darius in NA. I'll say that. And then right now, I would believe that mine is better. So
Hell yeah.
I'll say that. I'll say right now, I think my Darius is better. I think maybe last split, his was better. Maybe the split before that, mine was better. You never know. Like, you don't know for sure, but yeah.
Sorry, we had to cut for a second because my fire alarm went off. But I guess as Hawk said, I don't want to steal your line. I guess you
The
can
the
deliver it
Darius
right now.
talk just too fire. Quacker's Darius. It's too spicy.
True, yeah.
What can we say? I mean,
Oh,
it's
man.
true.
All right, well, where were we? Okay, talked about the Darius. Talked about summer. This offseason, I guess it was your intent to play again. You end up teaming up with Winnie and Darkwings, who were actually playing with you on AoE in that promotion
Yeah.
tournament that you subbed in for. Did that
Yeah.
have anything to do with how that team actually ended up coming together, or how did that work?
It had a little bit, but if I'm not mistaken, which I think I know pretty well what happened in offseason, I think Wildcard just started off with me in the top lane, and I was like their first choice, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, and then they were looking for people to fill the other roles, and then they had Slew, I think, hit them up with just like kind of just like I'm not sure if they were originally a package deal of 4 players, but I think they were trying to get some of their players onto Wildcard maybe. And then what ended up happening is that like my manager came to me and I was like, hey, would you be down to play with these players like as a 4-man package deal? I was like, yeah, I'm down. I played with Winnie Darkwings before. I think pretty highly of our bot lane also, so like I was totally down and
Yeah.
I was friendly with them. So yeah,
Well,
that's just pretty much how it came together.
and I don't want to misquote Chu, but I'm pretty sure he did say something along the lines to either me or Grapes, like they weren't necessarily a package deal, but Slew really wanted to play together, and I think they already knew that Surdy was going to be on FlyQuest, so it doesn't make sense
Yeah.
that they came together on Wildcard. And I guess so. You said they started with you. You had worked with Myra before as well, right? Because
Yeah.
she was the general manager of Wildcard back in 21.
Yes.
So yeah, back with Myra, back with Winnie and Darkwings. So I guess she sought you out. She knew you were back.
Yeah. I mean, I was coming off of a pretty hot split, at least in the regular season. So, also, yeah. And then with the history of the Mara, and then I think even when I went to like Chicago, like for the spring finals, I think she was there also. So we
Oh, cool.
were able to connect a bit, like just say what's up, like old manager or whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah, Maya's great. We got the chance to hang out with her when
Yeah.
we were back in LA for CLOL and everything, and yeah, that's really cool. How over the last over all those years, you guys end up back on the same team
Yeah.
together, which is I think really cool.
Yeah, it's been good.
But what's it like being on a team that is already a team? You know what I mean? Because Slew is playing like their own collegiate games, and then you're playing with
Yeah.
them for NACL. Like, what is that experience like? Kind of being like that, like almost odd man out of with aside from like the other package of players.
I think at first, like the first scrim, it was definitely a little bit like off-putting. Like they definitely had like their systems like completely in place, pretty much, which is like pretty much already set up, and then they were just trying to get me to like fit into it, which was like new for me for sure. Like on my old teams, like pretty much every new team, like when you're playing with like a new stack of like 5 players, you're trying to like first figure out how they're gonna play together and stuff like that. And so it was kind of different this time. It was like they already knew how they wanted to play, and I just have to like figure out how to like fit in with them. But other than that, I mean, they haven't been like singling me out or anything for the most part. Besides like the fact that I didn't really know how to play with them. Then like obviously I need to be caught up a bit, so I haven't felt like any sort of like anything super weird other than that. As soon as I started figuring it out, it's just been like, oh, we're just a team, and so yeah,
Awesome.
that's been good.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, I would imagine it seems like the vibes are pretty good. You got some vibers on your team, as well as the fact that things seem to be going well. So I it's great to see.
Yeah.
do you have just like, I guess, general thoughts on the season overall? Whether it's any more thoughts about playing a wild card or like fearless draft, only single round robin, whatever. Like I'll just kind of leave the door open.
Um,
'Cause we definitely have our
nothing.
thoughts on how
Yeah, we
things
have our
have been
thoughts.
working, but I want to hear we want to hear from like a player perspective.
Nothing too specific. I mean, fearless draft is definitely not a good thing for me, just as a player or like a prospect. Um, though I think it's a little bit overblown, but it's kind of obvious that my champ pool is not like an ocean,
Mhm.
but I'm limited to maybe like a set of like 5, 6 champions, maybe 3, 4 in some matches. But and so that becomes like an issue in fearless draft. But I think the only time I really felt it was just this last CSG series where we lost, and like I was in game 3 with like 4 of my champions off the table. Usually, if like 4 of my champs are off the table, that like every team is losing like a lot for it. But this time, just because of like fearless, it wasn't really the case. So,
Mhm.
so I definitely did not really. I wasn't really used to that, and then wasn't really able to adapt in the moment. And that was just a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think moving forward, I need to work on that. But don't think it's too far away from like being like a situation where I'm just like all good and like have everything set for fearless and I can just adapt to it. Other than that, like the single round robin, I think it's kind of a good thing. I mean, last season kind of felt like it dragged on really, really long, at least regular seasons, like regular split. And in this split, it feels like it's just going a lot faster, even though like the duration is like, I guess like the real life duration is the same,
Yeah.
roughly, but just because there's only one match every week
Right.
instead of like multiple, it does feel like the season is progressing like faster in general. So
Do
I
you
think
feel
I
like
like
there's
that
more
actually.
pressure, like for each regular season game because there's less matches that you actually have, or is it kind of just the same?
I don't feel any more pressure, but I guess when I think about it like directly, then yeah, I guess every match does matter more.
It's
So
good that you don't
there's
feel it.
that,
You know,
but
I mean, like
I don't
it's
really feel it though.
that's good. That's good.
I
Yeah.
just show up to the match and it's just game day and you need to win, so you just do what you
Yeah.
need to do. Yeah.
I guess we could like go into talking about like the actual like league and some of the games that are upcoming. I mean, FlyQuest is looking really good. You're playing them. First of all, do you have do you feel like because Surdy is like the slew starter, you want to beat him to prove like I'm the better guy on with these players?
I
I feel
mean,
like it would be like an X like a I don't even know what the like parallel would be, but it's almost like you seeing your ex like doing better than you are over if you end up winning.
maybe a little bit of that, but I mean, I'm not thinking too deep into it. So I think just in the like my past, like when you overthink about stuff like that, it kind of gets in the way of like really just focusing on the win. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
so I just try not to think too much into it. And I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna show up on the day and play the best I can, and then try to win. And yeah,
You have some extra scouting now because now your teammates know everything about their top laner. So maybe
yeah,
draft a
that's
little smarter
true.
True.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
yeah, true.
Do you think that FlyQuest is the best team in the league right now? I mean, they're in first place. They're 3-0, but it feels like kind of anyone can beat anyone right now.
Yeah, I would say I do think FlyQuest is the best, but in terms of like how good they are, I don't think they're invincible. And so maybe in like some past splits that I watched or played in, like it felt like one team was just like unbeatable completely, and I don't think that's really true for FlyQuest. And so yeah, I think that's just all I'll say. Like you said,
Maybe
anyone can beat
maybe
anyone.
maybe they just need to be caught off guard by a wild card team when I mean,
Maybe yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Maybe they need. I don't know. I was gonna make some saying, but you kind of just said it like wild card or
Yeah, yeah.
They
whatever.
need their deck stacked. They gotta get
Yeah,
They need
stack
their
the
deck
deck.
stacked.
Stack the deck.
They need their decks like cracked, I guess.
Oh, I
Oh,
like that.
okay,
All
okay,
right,
not bad, not bad.
we're
Yeah,
making new statements here.
Quack the
New sayings.
deck.
yeah,
That
because
is
it's
that's
cracked.
definitely been done before. That's
Okay,
definitely
that's
been
been
done
done before. Okay,
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
good,
that's
good,
that's
good, good,
that's
good.
kind of the classic. Yeah, the
Okay, all
cracked
right, all
deck.
right, all right. Well, I'm not creative. I
All
mean,
good.
Quacker, that's really all we had like prepared for you for this interview. We got a solid half hour in.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, though, I mean, just I'll leave the floor open one more time. Anything else that you want to say about your past, present, future? Anyone you want to shout out? Anything like that?
I mean, I'll just shout out my friends who are always watching, my family even at this point. my like parents are watching my games nowadays, which is kind of
That's so
crazy to me.
awesome.
Like they don't understand anything about the game, but they just watch because I'm playing.
Oh.
That wasn't true before whenever I was playing like amateur or whatever. And then also I'd like to shout out my teammates. I think we've had like pretty strong mental just overall. Like we had a really bad week of scrims one week and then turned out fine in our match. So I was glad that we can move on from that and like fight through it. And then we did just lose to DSG, which kind of sucks, but I'm confident that like we'll be able to bounce back. Our team has like a pretty good mental, pretty good vibes overall, and it's been fun playing with them. So yeah, shout out to them.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Quacker. It was a lot of fun, and we're looking forward
No
to
problem.
watching Wildcard perform throughout the rest of the regular season and hopefully beyond if things go the right way. We're going to send it right back out to us to close out the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much to Quacker for sitting down with us. That was a fun convo. We went all the way back to our first ever cast together, Hawk.
Ancient history.
And now we're here in 2024.
Well,
I think
not
we're
our
both in
first-
better places at this point.
Well, I would say so, but I will say not our first ever cast together, just our first tier 3
True,
cast together. Not our first ever cast. You know, you got to go all the way back to 2020 for that one. But oh, good times. But yeah, shout out to Quacker. I would definitely say the career growth for the three of us has been pretty nice to see. And I mean, man, Wildcard Gaming is gaming right now. What can we say?
They are, and I'm super excited for them. They have, you know, some tough opponents. They got Lit, and then they got FlyQuest this weekend. Make sure to tune into that over on the NACL channel. It's a super week. Once again, there are 3 best of 3s happening on Friday. So before even the LCS starts, that first game, Lit versus Wildcard, starting at 12 p.m.
It's
Pacific.
a super duper week.
Yeah, I think this is the most games that we have in a week the entire season, which is pretty cool. So
Yep.
make sure to tune in for that.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. Make sure to tune in to the NACL. Make sure if you want to catch any of the qualifier VODs, you go to either the LOL Esports YouTube channel, the LOL Esports VODs YouTube channel, or also I think they're on Rally Cry's website as well. If you want to go find those and brave the UI. If you like Salty Runback, tune back in next week. We're going to try to keep the upload schedule somewhat consistent to either releasing immediately following Tier 3 tonight or on Friday, like morning, early afternoon. TBD, I suppose, whenever this one comes out. The other one should hopefully come out as well. And make sure you catch CLOL Central on Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Pre-show is going to start even before that, somewhere in the neighborhood of 7:45, 4:45, where we'll be talking collegiate, having special guests on, and covering some games, getting some teams shown off that you might not otherwise see because, you know, contrary to popular belief, there is more to collegiate than just the CLOL Championship at the end of the year, and we want to be with it every step of the way. And, of course, finally, make sure you watch Tier 3 tonight on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, where you can get your entire fix for North American Challengers League content and updates in 90 minutes every single week. We're doing a lot of work to try to make that show as good as possible for you all, and we hope y'all have been enjoying it. Any feedback, anything you want to say to us, make sure you hit us up at Salty Runback Pod on all of our socials, saltyrunbackpod@gmail.com, and me and Grapes at Hawkcast, SVD Grapes. And thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week for another episode of Salty Runback. If you think that Ole Miss is going to make the promotion tournament, you can take what we said with a grain of salt. I've been Hawk. That's been Grapes. Have a good night.